Welcome. Welcome everyone to our Passover special. So we are in the year 5786 or 2026, and we are very excited to bring you something special about Passover. And with me, I'm Paushali, and I am a book author on the Jews of India. And with me, I have Drora Arussy and Jennifer Abadi. And Drora is a Jewish educator, and she's the executive director of Jewish Tapestry. And Jennifer Abadi is based in Manhattan, New York City, and she is a Sephardic cookbook author and a cooking instructor. So, welcome you both, and I'm so excited to just have some discussion on Passover and talk about a certain Passover food. So, over to you, Drora.
And your cooking demonstrations. I'm excited to show those as well. So thank you both for those. And so I'm going to introduce the concept first. So we're going to start with what are we talking about? So we have Pesach, Passover, time of freedom, freedom from tyranny, freedom from slavery, freedom to practice one's own religion, freedom to go into the world and be yourself and be a nation. So, in the Torah, the Israelites were commanded to have a special first night of Passover. So Passover is actually one of those that are from the Bible. And the first night, you are supposed to have you're supposed to eat matzah, you're supposed to have a special thing, but there's no seder. The word seder came along later. So the seder, the word itself means order. And as the Jewish people gained and then lost sovereignty in the land of Israel and now regained it, the Seder has evolved through the different places they went and through the different cultures they were part of. And we're going to talk a bit about that. So the way we see it now, the structure or the order that we have it now was really probably started at the end of the Second Temple period, but really came into real being in the Gaonic time. So like the 700s, 800s, that time period. And at that time period, we had Jews living in the land of Israel and in Babylonia. And in both places, they started to evolve this Haggadah, right, which is our guidebook to the Seder. So we all have the four cups, the questions, the answers, the telling of the Exodus story, the symbolic foods. And even then, from that time period, they started talking about, well, what questions should we actually put in? And if you look at some of the questions today between different communities, there still are some differences. I'll give you one example is some people say, why don't we eat grilled meat? But Yemenite Jews do eat grilled meat on that night. So it's people specifically don't because it's in memory of the sacrifice. And we say, oh, but we're not getting sacrifices today. And other people do because they say, no, we're supposed to commemorate it. And that's a big part of the Seder. The Seder is reenacting what it was. We're supposed to all, the whole dol vadol, every generation, we're supposed to see ourselves as if we were the ones leaving Egypt. And I'm going to give a little plug for my book at that time, Beseder, Together Beseder, talks about that, the kids coming together, sharing their different customs, and talking about how the Seder actually helps us reenact the night. And in different communities, they do it differently. And so we can talk about some of the ones that we know about. One of the ones that people get a kick out of is the Persians, where they take scallions and we're not whipping each other with them, but we're tapping each other with them in commemoration of the whipping of the slavery. So there are different ways. Some Moroccans will sometimes take some matzah on their backs and talk about where are you coming from? Where are you going to? And so we should all say, we came from Egypt. We're going to Jerusalem. And it's always constantly a continuation of this. And so no matter if you have a Seder plate and what order it's in, or your whole table is a Seder plate, many of the items, just like we all have the four cups, many of the items are the same. And one of the ones, what we're going to be focusing on today is one that took different cultural aspects depending on where you were. And Jennifer has really researched many of them. So we're going to talk about two of them in depth today. Maybe you'll talk a little bit about the other ones. But one of the things that's on all Seder tables is the haroset. And it might be called duke or it might be called other things, but there is some type of a mortar equivalent, something that resembles mortar that the Jews used to build the buildings in Egypt. So I'm going to turn it over now to Paushali and Jennifer, who are our chefs at this time. So help us understand what the differences are and what the cultural influences are of the different harosets.
Well, thank you so much, Drora, for that introduction to Passover, and such a relevant theme also for today, right? Freedom and redemption to the land of Israel. Yeah, so thank you very much. So I'm going to introduce you now to Jennifer Abadi, and she has a very special cookbook. I have it in my bookshelf as well. A must-have for Passover, I think, because it has some amazing recipes from different Jewish communities or communities who lived in different parts of the world in Middle East and North Africa, and as well as India. You have something from Afghanistan also. So, Jennifer, introduce your book and talk about haroset.
Thank you, Paushali. Thank you for introducing me. Today, I'm going to introduce a few things. One is my cookbook, Too Good to Pass Over, which is available online it's available on Amazon. And the thing about this book, as you can see, it's very thick, is because it's very comprehensive. It's 23 communities in North Africa, the Mediterranean, Middle East, and Central Asia. And it's really a compilation not only of recipes for the actual Seder and Passover, but also the Seder plate or Seder table or Seder tray, whatever each community does for the Seder, as well as stories and interviews of people and how they prepare for the holiday. So basically starting from the first day after Purim, leading up to the first Seder, and then even recipes for Passover week, and to finish it off, at least one recipe for breaking the fast, meaning the bread fast, the chametz fast, at the very end of Pesach. So it's all in here. And today I also wanted to show two recipes from my book that are haroset. One is a Persian haroset called haleg, and the other one is a Moroccan recipe that's also haroset, but what makes it very interesting is it's rolled into balls. So they're both in this book, and I will be demonstrating these for you today.
Hi everyone, I'm Chef Jennifer Abadi. Today I'm preparing a Moroccan-style haroset for the upcoming holiday of Passover. What makes this particular haroset unique from many others that I've made is that the way we serve it is in little balls. They almost look like chocolate truffles, so I call them Moroccan-style truffle harosets. Today I'm going to show you the ingredients, we're going to prepare it, and then when I'm done, I'll show you how to serve it. So first let's go over the ingredients. We have the nuts, which are toasted almonds and walnuts. And then we have the dried fruit. We have cut up medjool dates, which are the larger, thicker dates. I have golden raisins, and I have black raisins. And then to combine, after we do this all in the food processor, I put in a little bit of pomegranate juice. You can also use red grape juice and red wine if you want. Manischewitz, the sweet wine, or regular wine. So what I'm going to do first is bring it over here and put it into my food processor. I like to put in the walnuts first because they're dry to grind them. I'm going to pour those in first and then give it a pulse. Then what I like to do is add, just before, I don't want it to be very fine yet, I'm going to add my medjool dates, and I cut them up just so that they're not too big. And put in the raisins. But I don't put the liquid in yet because I don't want it to become too mushy yet. So first I'm going to grind it so that it's kind of like a coarse. That's how it looks. That looks pretty good. This is how it looks in here. You see that it's kind of like coarse but even style sizes of pieces here. Make sure your blade is secure when you put it back. going to do it a little more because I see that the raisins are a little too big. Okay. That looks better. So I'm going to show you again what that looks like. You can see it's kind of like a little more fine and even, like this. And now, after I put it back, I'm going to pour in the pomegranate juice. You need just a little bit of liquid, not too much, to give it a smoother, softer consistency so you can roll it into balls. So I'm going to put it all back here, and now I'm going to pulse it until it all comes into like one big ball in the center of the food processor, and you'll see what I mean once I start. There we go. You see, you can already see how it's coming all together into one big ball. That's how you know it's ready to start forming the truffle balls. And this is what it looks like in the food processor, like that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I have a separate bowl here. Take the blade out, be careful, it's kind of sharp. And I like to use a rubber spatula to get it all out. I'm just going to put it into another small bowl, like this. Try to get all of it out. And that's it, all right? So I don't need this anymore. And now what you need to do is form them into the balls. So I have my plate of ground cinnamon that I'm going to roll it into. I have the actual haroset mixture, right? It looks like this, like a big paste. And then I like to use a measuring spoon so that I can make sure that everything stays consistent in size. It looks much better and it's easier to roll. So this is a half tablespoon, which is about 1.5 teaspoons. I like to make them small. You can also use a teaspoon and make them really small. Sometimes they're served as very big with a whole tablespoon, but I find that's a little bit big when people are eating so many things at the seder. So what I'm going to do is first scoop out a certain amount, and I try to make it even and level with the spoon. That's why I press against the spoon when I do it, and I push it out with my thumb. So now I have my amount here. Then I roll it in my hands so it's a nice even ball, like this. Okay, you can see what it looks like. And then the trick is to roll it in the cinnamon so you get the outside dusted with cinnamon. After you roll it, and there's a lot of cinnamon on there right now, I roll it again, like this, so that it kind of gets blended in and it's smoother. And now you can see how this looks almost like a chocolate truffle. And I'm going to put it in a bowl like this, in a bowl that I'm going to serve it in. So I'm going to make another one just so you can see. I take my measuring spoon, press against the inside of the bowl so I know it's even. I push it out with my thumb. I do a first rolling of it in between the palms of my hands so I get a ball. And then I roll it in the cinnamon so that all sides are coated. As you can see, it's a lot of cinnamon there. Then I roll it again so it's not so much cinnamon, because when people eat it, they're not going to want so much cinnamon, but it also gets a little absorbed. And you can sort of see it lightly on the outside if you look closely there. And I put it in the ball. And here you can see in the bowl I have 2, and you continue until you finish all of the haroset balls. So I'm going to keep doing some here, rolling. And it actually gets easier to roll in your hands as you do it, because not only the mixture becomes softer, but there's a little bit of cinnamon that stays in the palms of your hands that helps to keep it from sticking, right? So keep finishing like that. So now I'm just continuing to finish all of these truffle balls. The trick is to keep them so that they're very smooth. I think sometimes one thing I've noticed that people do when I teach this recipe is that they don't take the time to really roll the balls into very smooth ones. So you really have to make sure it's very smooth before then you go and roll it in the cinnamon, right? Just lightly like this. And then you roll it again. So you really have to take that time. If you do that, then you see how it starts to look nice in the bowl. You can also put it on a little platter if you want. So I'm just going to continue here until I finish rolling all the balls, excuse me, here in the cinnamon like this. Keep rolling them. If you need to add more cinnamon, you can.
Oops.
Keep rolling them like this. If you have to clean your hands, sometimes I rinse them in cold water and I start over because the hands start to get a little sticky. But you see here, you keep rolling in the cinnamon, rolling again, adding to your bowl until all of it's done. You're finished, and you can actually freeze them. They freeze really well in an airtight container. What I like to do is put them, you can put them between pieces of parchment paper if you're afraid they're going to get stuck, but they freeze really well, so you can make it a week or two in advance. And when you're ready to serve, maybe take them out about an hour before and put them in the serving bowl or on the plate that you're going to serve them on while they're still cold. And you can re-roll them when you take them out if they're a little, I don't know, not too round or smooth. So that's what our haroset truffles look like. Okay, and now I've finished rolling all of the balls, and you can see how it looks in the small bowl like this. Looks really nice. You can also put it in a small little plate if you want to serve it that way. And like I said, if you wanted to freeze it, you can freeze it for several weeks in advance and then just defrost it about an hour before, serve, and your seder is ready to go. Now that I've made the Moroccan style haroset, I'm going to make a Persian style haroset called halek. Halek has a few different components, so I'm going to go over the ingredients and then we'll start to make the halek. The first part are the nuts. There are actually 4 kinds of nuts in this certain kind of haroset. There's walnuts, almonds. You can get slivered, you can get whole, you can get sliced. This is hazelnuts and pistachios. Just make sure you get the unsalted pistachios for this thing. Then what makes it kind of a little bit special is there's a little bit of salt. I like to use kosher salt, and a crushed red pepper. I'm using cayenne, so it just gives it a little bit of kick. You can leave it out. You can add more if you really like a little bit more spice, but there's just a little bit of red pepper in there. Then we have the fruit, which are just a red apple that I've cut into large pieces, a few red grapes, the seedless red grapes, so you don't have the seeds in there. And then I have a mixture of black raisins and pieces of dates that I cut up into large pieces here. What I'm going to do is mix the raisins that I have cut up with the dates with a mixture of pomegranate juice. You can also use red wine or some other kind of juice like red grape juice, and apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar that I'm going to pour into the mixture, and then we'll combine everything, okay? So the first step is to pour into the bowl with the black raisins and the dates, the pomegranate juice, and the apple cider vinegar. Now, technically, you're supposed to let this marinate for a few hours. Some people even do it overnight. It's so that not only you soften the dried fruit, but it really absorbs the flavor, especially if you're using the wine. So you get a little bit of that wine flavor into your haroset. So I just mix it up so I'm sure it's absorbed, and then you would put it aside and let it marinate. For the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to add it pretty quickly. Okay, so that's the mixture there. The first thing I'm going to put into the food processor are the spices, well, really the salt and the red pepper and the nuts. The reason I want to do this first is because the food processor is dry, these are dry, and it's easier to grind them up before you add the fruit part and the marinated fruit, okay? So I'm going to add, you can add them all together, just sprinkle them around. I'm adding the walnuts, the hazelnuts, the slivered almonds, and the pistachios, okay? And then you can put the spices in right away because it mixes well in there when you have it directly in with the nuts. Okay, so now I'm going to pulse it. I'm going to stop there a little bit more. You don't want it too fine. So if you want this pulse, if you don't want to overdo it, and you kind of look to the side, when it looks like it's kind of coarse, I'm looking for the pistachios to be ground up a little bit, which they are. So that's how this looks right now. Okay. And I'll show you in my hand also. You can see it's kind of got some big pieces and little pieces there too. That's okay. Okay, so now make sure if you put it back, make sure the blade is pure, everything's locked in. The next thing I'm going to add is this mixture of marinated raisins and dates, and I'm going to make sure that all the liquid is in there. So I'm going to pulse that first. That looks pretty good. You see it's kind of wet, but not completely pureed. It's still a little bit wet. So I'm going to stop at that point. And then the last thing I put in are the cut up apple and the sliced red grapes. And you can also, change according to what you like. If you want to put a little more apple, a little more grapes, you can do that too. Once you see how the recipe works, you can kind of create it to your own taste. So now I'm going to pulse. Okay, how this looks. I think it looks pretty good. Mixture, it's sort of like a coarse, but soft kind of mixture. What I like to do is be able to still see pieces of fruit so I can kind of identify what it is, so that basically it's before it being completely smooth in a puree. Maybe some people prefer it to be really smooth, but I actually like it where I can see the pieces in there. Okay, and that's how I serve it. So now I'm going to just serve it in a bowl. It's very quick and easy. I just scoop it out into a small bowl. You can have two small bowls at your table if you like. So if you have a long table, everybody has a little bit of the haroset in front of them. Just like that. And then I like to use sliced grapes to decorate the top. So here you can just put a few sliced grapes so it looks nice when you serve it. And that's it. And that's my Persian halek.
And now I want to introduce you and send you off to Paushali, who is our Indian jewelry expert. And she's done a lot of research in the foods and the culture of Jews from India. And she has a cookbook as well. And from that, she's going to be preparing a recipe for haroset from this community. Paushali?
Yeah, thank you. So the Jews of India are also distinct in the sense that there are a few different communities, and based on which community you come from, you may have slight variation on your haroset. Now, haroset, one of the common things across Jewish communities is, I think, the use of dried fruits and nuts. For many people use nuts, but some people may be allergic to nuts, so we put away the nuts. Now, in India, it's common to use dates and also figs, as well as nuts like walnuts, maybe pistachios for garnishing. Some people also use cashew nuts and papaya, but I'm going to be showing a very simple one from the Bene Israel community. Hi, so I'm Paushali, and I am the author of Tasting Faith, which is a book preserving the culinary heritage of the Jews of India, particularly the communities of Bene Israel and the Baghdadi Jews. And that is co-authored with Anne Sampson, an 83-year-old Indian Jewish lady living in Toronto. Now, we have several recipes in our book, and we also have a haroset recipe of the Indian Jewish community of the Bene Israel, which is super simple and really tasty. It's made of medjool dates. Try and get that variety if you can. And so I'm going to show you, it's super simple, which you can have on the seder plate to just get some variation. Okay, so here we go. What we need to do is to cover the pitted dates. Here are pitted dates, and I've covered the dates with water, just cold water, and then I'm gonna switch it on and let it boil first, and then we turn down the heat. So now I have just started the heat, and soon it'll start boiling, and then I'll show you. I'm just gonna soon turn it down. Okay, let it bubble a bit more. Okay, so now it's really bubbling, so I'm gonna turn down my heat. I'm gonna turn it right down. So there, I'm gonna show you again how it will look after some time. So I'm gonna just let it simmer for about 8 to 9 minutes. Yes, so the dates are done now, and what I'm gonna do is blend the dates into a coarse paste consistency. That's how my dates look now. So the water has evaporated, and I've chucked out the remaining water as well, and they are really soft now. Okay, so it's really soft. Now I'm blending it using a handheld blend. You can of course use your regular food processor. I put out the blended dates in a nice Indian bowl. Not Indian looking, sorry, Indian bowl. And then I'm just gonna put very little bit of salt. And I have like a teaspoon of lemon juice and cloves and cinnamon. These are all like you can adjust as per your taste. You can also put cardamom if you like. And the last step will be to garnish with some nuts. You could use chopped walnuts, or you can use pistachios. Okay, so this is the best bit where I get to try the haroset.
Mmm. Thank you both. That was incredible. I hope everybody enjoyed the differences between the different communities and the different harosets. And I encourage you to have a haroset tasting. It can be fun to kind of immerse yourself in the difference. See which ones you think actually look like mortar and which ones you think might be more accurate to what it originally looked like. Compare it to an Ashkenazi one. See if the apples actually add anything.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, we wish everyone happy Passover.
Have a wonderful and safe Passover wherever you are in the world. Pesach Sameach.
Pesach Sameach, Chag Sameach, and an easy bread fast, an easy chametz fast, because I see it like a fast. And I hope that it's enjoyable and you have a great holiday.
And let us know what you think about it. Let us know what else you want to see.
Yeah. Bye.